difficult question because you have something that comes into play, which is religion. And when religion comes into play, people don't even know why they think it's wrong. They've just been told it's wrong. I was doing some reading, before this, and you brought up statistics about hate crimes have gone up 80% from 2021 to 2022. I'm sure some of that has to do with people were at home because everything was shut down, and so it was a little bit easier to, you're not distracted doing other things. But I also think that a lot of that violence comes from fear, of course, but people trying to reassure themselves of their own sexuality, right? I've always been kind of like, oh, I've had sexual experiences with women. I have sexual experiences with men. I don't really see, I love, so it doesn't matter what your body parts are. And I don't think it should matter at all. But I also think that people feel self-righteous in feeling they have to hand out punishments, right? So if there's a hate crime against any LGBTQ plus QA plus IA. They've got a lot of letters now, guys. It's like this. It's they're validating their hate by saying, I'm going to police the situation because I can. Not necessarily even because they want to, but there's this self-righteousness, there's this, this need for reassurance that I'm not like that. So I'm going to punish you because you're like that. And I know that the way that you're like that is wrong. But is it really? I don't, I know that in our history, this, guy on guy sex has been happening a long time. It's nothing new. We just are starting to label things in a way where this is what I want to own as my sexuality. To me, sexuality should not even be a conversation. Again, I said this earlier, like what you do with your body in your bed is none of my business at the end of the day. You being trans does not change my experience with you as a black trans man. It basically just lets me know that it's an identifier. It's nothing else. It has nothing to do with who you are as a person. It is just about your preference and what you want to live your truth as. And I feel like we shouldn't, you have a lot of people. I think it's really misunderstood. I think that we need a lot more education. Religion's not ever going to go anywhere, but as long as we have, people going to church who, their pastor says, well, this is wrong and it's a sin, then you're going to have people that won't ever change because they're holding on to that. They need that, right? But I think education, having conversations like this, and really having interaction with people, we're such a divided group anyway, like culturally, the Persians are with their Persian people, and Jews are with their Jewish people, and Asians are in their Asian community, and the only community that we don't have is a black community, right? 'Cause that was taken from us. We have no culture, we have no community. When we do create culture, it's taken and, hijacked by white people who are, I'm seeing do box braids on YouTube right now. I was like, what the fuck? Um, like you hate us so bad, but you want to be us so bad. It's such a dichotomy to me. But I think that having those conversations it's a big gap because I think sexual preference or your identifier as to who you are is really anybody's business. The only time I would want to know is if I'm in a relationship or I'm actually watching this storyline. It's so corny, but I love 90 Day Fiance. And there's this guy who was with his girlfriend for like 5 years and didn't know that she was trans. He broke up with her, and he's from Moldova, so it's like super anti anything over there other than heterosexual, and very religious. And it took him like 10 years, and he was like, you're the love of my life, and I just don't care anymore. But imagine loving someone so much that it still took you 10 years to be okay with being with the person that you were already with that you didn't know was trans. What changed? what changed? Knowing, like, I don't tell people I have my appendix out. Oh, I don't have an appendix. Like, and nobody does that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't do that. It's that's just ridiculous. But I do think a lot, and we talk about hate crimes a lot. I think people are scared of their own sexuality. People are afraid to be labeled something they feel is not good or is a sin, or even if they feel that way. I have this theory that a lot of hate crimes come from people who are actually gay and can't access that part of themselves, or scared to, or don't can't come out, or whatever the reason is. And so they're going to punish you for it, right? Because they can't live their truth and you're living your truth. What gives you the right to live your truth, but I can't live my truth? That's just my theory, and I'm not saying all people, but I think there is a higher percentage than we probably think initially of hate crimes that are you know um, done by non-conforming.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like I think that is a true statement for sure.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it is from individuals who don't know how to battle or deal with it themselves,
yeah,
and so they want to project that hate because they hate, and because they hate themselves and they can't be free. And I think I want to say, even for me, because I would see these people who were out, trans out and everything like that, and that still made me feel some kind of way. Like
yeah,
it made me angry. It made me hate myself because granted, I'm not out here again. I don't wear it or talk about it every day, but I love the fact that I am at the point, if someone asks me, I have no problem saying yes,
yeah,
I am trans. Whereas before, I would deny it, and
yeah,
people would straight out ask me, and then I would deny it, no, and I'd change the subject instantly because at the time I didn't. It wasn't that I'm not ashamed of being trans. It's one, I didn't feel safe about it, and then
right,
society and the culture that I was in, I just didn't feel safe to be my true self.
yeah,
And now, do I feel safe in everything now? I feel safe to the point because now I'm doing something about it. So I realized in order for me to feel this safe, that I don't need to be in survival mode about it anymore, is because
hmm,
now I'm doing something about it. If I want a society and a culture that is accepting and doesn't feel ashamed about it, then I can't be ashamed about it. I
yeah,
can't feel bad about it. I need to be open. I need to open those doors, and if people want to ask the questions. And again, I might not have all the data. I'm not a doctor. I'm gonna tell you my personal experience about being
right,
trans, and then let you know
right,
that that's just me. And again, every trans person is different. Every non-binary person is different, and view things and see life, have different experiences. So it's one, finding within yourself that acceptance and being okay with your sexuality, and then you can really find that happiness. Because even, I mean, a conversation that I had with my therapist, and then she was just talking about, I had a certain homophobia against myself as a trans person. I had a
yeah,
homophobia against it because I didn't want people to know I'm trans, and then at the same time sleep with both men and women and other not trans people. And so I sort of hid that about myself, and that made me angry because then I can't sit here and expect people to stand up for individuals if I'm sitting there hiding it myself and
yeah,
not being upfront about it, and to letting the world, standing up for people when I should have been standing up. And I will admit that about myself. I've not stood up when I've needed to stand up. I've been in conversations, or that I would walk away from, and these were the individuals who don't know I'm trans, but they're just saying the most disrespectful stuff about trans people. And because I didn't want me standing up to then give them any little idea that I'm trans myself and have to deal with that, I didn't say anything, and that I felt bad. I feel bad about that, and now I don't want to feel bad. I want to sit there and stand up and someone say something, you know what? Yeah, I'm trans too. I mean, you sound ignorant. What you
Right.
talking about is ignorant. Like
Right.
you should probably go pick up a book. Go watch a movie. Go watch Disclosure. If anyone needs anything to know about trans, go watch Disclosure. It will get you, educate you quick, fast, and in a hurry. It's a great movie. Great movie. And then also go watch Boys Don't Cry, because then you'll understand the fear that trans people have, and that's why I that's part of that is why I wasn't so open about it as well,
Yes.
because of that fear. That fear is still there.
We're a
It's
very shameful country. I there's a lot of shame attached to anything that's considered abnormal, right? Like I remember this guy telling me that I was a lesbian, and I'm like, I'm not a lesbian. He's like, but you sleep with women, and I was like, but I've never been in a relationship, nor do I want to be in a relationship with a woman. I enjoy sleeping with them. That doesn't make me a lesbian. And he was like, nope, but and I've heard that before. I was ashamed to admit that for a long time, that I have slept with women. I love sleeping with women. We're beautiful. But I understand the shame that comes with that is attached to that from a personal experience. So I can't imagine having that to the degree of, what trans people, what queer people, like what is attached to that. We're getting a little more comfortable with gay people now, right? We have guys kissing on TV, and where it's a little more acceptable. We're slowly breaking that. And I always say, like, it's always sexy when women have sex together, but when men do it, it's not. And I never understood that. I never could really wrap my head around what's the difference. It's still the same sex, but it's thought to be more feminine if if you have sex with women, than if you're a gay man, then that's just disgusting, right? There's all these words for
Mhm.
it, and what have you. But I never got that, but that's that acceptance of certain things. So, and that goes back to what we were talking about with code switching. If you sound a certain way, if you look a certain way, there's an acceptance there that you don't get if you don't sound the way they think you should sound, or if you don't wear which they think you should wear, or your hair is looking a little Afrocentric, or I had that fear. I had that fear. I did not like being biracial growing up. One, I grew up in a time where there were hardly any biracial kids. And so there was never any place for me to really go. There was no refuge for me. I wasn't white enough and I wasn't black enough. And so I kind of got it from both ends. And there was a lot of self hate for a long time, to where I finally was like, I love being black. I want to own my blackness. I don't want to feel ashamed about it. I want to wear braids. I want to, I want to exercise that part of me. And there came pride with that. But for a long time, it took me a long time, teenage years. Oh God, the shame, whatever I could do to look European, whatever I could do to, I was putting sun in my hair, and, you know, but I think it's how our society is designed. That there's a standard, and for so long, the beauty standard has been European. Small, skinny, size zero,
Mhm.
no butts, no chests, long straight hair. That's what is beautiful. And when you have a group of people that decide, what clothes are beautiful, and what people are beautiful, and what style is beautiful this year, you don't have independent thinkers. You have people that have to follow, because if you don't and you're an outsider, you could be attacked for it. If you, for whatever reason, women not shaving their armpits now, it's like, oh my God, that's so gross. Why? In Europe, it's fine. Nobody cares. And we hold ourselves to a European beauty standard, but not that part, right? That part's not okay. So there's just a lot of everything's just backwards, honestly. Everything is very backwards. And I think that, people are saying, like, oh, there's so many more this, and there's so many more group of this people or that people. And I don't think so. I think that two things have happened. We have social media, and you're able to see inside of places that you wouldn't have been able to see inside of prior to. And there are people more willing to wear their differences. You know, there are a lot of people that say, hey, I'm neurodivergent. Most people don't even know what that means, right? But being on the spectrum, I'm on the spectrum. I wouldn't have admitted that to anybody, because it made me different. And we live in a society where we want to be accepted. Unfortunately, we want to be accepted by people and outsiders, and we don't accept ourselves. And that's where the real work starts. When you can
Hmm.
accept you for who you are, you know, me being authentically me is the best damn thing ever. And it took me a long time to be comfortable with my quirkiness and my, you know, my little weird, you know, things that I do. It just got to a point where I was tired of being ashamed of being me. There was nothing wrong with me, but I was different. And so society looks at you, and you know, you again, we have everything supporting this narrative that, you know, if it ain't white, it ain't right. If it's not, you know, if it's not cisgendered, it ain't right. You know, it's just it's all back to that foundation of hierarchy and oppression. And this country was built on oppression. It's how it works. And people don't want it to not work that way, because then a lot of people are going to be in the same boat as the very people that they don't.
It's all going to start crumbling down, and no one wants it to crumble. I feel like they don't know, they won't know how to pick up the pieces. And the thing is, the black community has always had to pick up the pieces, figure out how to pick up the pieces. So it can be done. Don't just let it crumble. We just all just need to let it crumble and collectively as one pick it up together. Pick it and rebuild it back up together, you know, as all equals, seeing each other as the same. And there was another statistic that I had put with just the representation of the LGBT right now in, you know, just in power in general. And that number, whack. That number is just whack. It is just whack. I mean, it's whack. And and I'm just like, a part of me, I was like, man, maybe I should go major in something right now so I can just add to that number and just start, you know, just something. But then, you know, I think about the resources that's really provided to people of color to even get, even to even be added on in positions of power. And then, you know, resources that's provided to people on in the LGBTQI plus community and what resources they have. And it's not really all there. I mean, healthcare is an issue. You know, you got affirmative action taken away from out of the schools, and so now they want to take it all away, take it back, and so now it's like we gotta work and fight 10 times, 100 times more harder now just to even keep what they had already given to us. But you know, you still have the I don't want to say the white people who haven't died off that need to, but they are there. And then they're passing on that hate. They're passing that hate down to keep it still, you know, as within reach as possible. When, and I don't want to sound like a hateful person when I say this, but I just want to burn it all down and like just literally just torch it. Yeah, just torch it all the hell down.
Add those thoughts. Add those thoughts.
I feel like, I mean, because a part of me, and I don't want to seem like I don't have hope, because I have to have hope, because I do want to have a family, I want to have kids. I have to have hope that me bringing kids into this world as a trans man, that they will not, who I am won't be put against them, because they're already going to be black. So then me being their father, being trans, I don't want that to stand against them. I don't want them to really have to see all the fights and stuff that I have to go through in order for, you know, for me to continue to get the healthcare that I'm getting for my surgeries. I mean, I still got 4 more surgeries to go. This is 16 years in.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have taken this long. This is a long goddamn time. Like, this is a really, and I mean, I had to wait for it to even be a thing. Like, and I mean, I can have biological kids because I harvested my eggs. I froze my eggs. But in order for the healthcare to pay for that, because it was going to be expensive.
Yeah.
I'm black. I ain't got that much money. I ain't got money like that to be sitting in to afford that. But you got you know white. That's an option for white people. White people got money to sit there and say, you know, I'm gonna focus on my career, so I'm gonna
Right.
freeze my eggs for this amount of time and do
Right.
that. That I didn't even think that would even be an option. So like for a minute, I had to settle with the idea that I probably won't have biological kids. I'd have to adopt. But then now healthcare came along and they were able to do that to make that happen. But it's still so far away because now I'm in my 30s and I'm having these life-changing surgeries and I'm putting my body through this. And then again, I was in the military, so my body went through that. Whereas I mean, my last surgery had complications because I'm getting older. Like I'm doing this at an age where I should have did this in my 20s. It should have been done in my 20s, and the fact that people didn't want to understand it then, and it's just now people trying to, I appreciate it, but at the same time, like, do more, work harder, let's go. Let's freaking go. It's don't become complacent. Get your ass up. Let's get this momentum going. Let's go. Keep it moving.
Yeah, I agree. It's long overdue, and I will say I definitely think, you know, LGBTQ plus. There are a lot of resources, not as many as there should be. Don't get me wrong, but a lot more support from within your own community than I think Black people have. So Black people don't support one another like that. It is a very rare thing to, you know, it's we've always been essentially divided amongst one another because that's, you know, that's how the system was created, so that there was a hierarchy even within our own, you know, the colorism. The light skinned people went and worked in the house where the dark skinned worked outside of the house. So of course there's favoritism there. What does that create? Jealousy. What does that create? Unfair, you know, there's all of these things that come along with that, and those things were created. The highest on that list are, you know, cis white men. They are the hierarchy, they are the patriarchy, they are the everything, right? And Black people are still way down at the bottom, which just makes no sense. And I think too, I say when allies realize that dismantling the system and making it a more equitable system, it benefits everybody, including them. They're not having anything taken away per se. They're having this false sense of privilege that's not really there to begin with, right? So how do you lose something that's not real? How do you, it's like having an imaginary friend. Oh, I lost my imaginary friend. How do you lose an imaginary friend? It's your imagination, right? It's not really possible. It wasn't there to begin with. um, you know, I think that when they see that, and I think that there's a lot of allies now that are wanting to educate and are sickened. It takes, there's a first level for allies that coming into that realization, one, that everything that they know their reality to be is not true. There's an awakening that kind of happens there, right? Because you're like, wait a minute, this is all a construct, this is all made up, it's not tangible, it's not real, it doesn't exist. That puts you in a space where you're like, damn, my whole life is a lie. Like everything I think about who I am and my life and the things that I have that benefit me because I'm white aren't real. They're made up. And once they get through that, there's a grieving process that happens, there's an anger that happens, all of the, you know, the four steps of grief happen in white people when they start getting real serious about their allyship, because it comes with this, I have to accept that what I knew and what I was taught isn't true. And that's hard for people to wrap their minds around when that's what you've been fed all your life from grandma, great grandma. You know what I mean? Like, this is what it is. You don't think your great grandma's lying to you. You don't think that your doctor's lying to you. You don't think. I don't trust doctors. I think doctors are wonderful, but I'm still going to go do my own research. I'm still going to go read up on what's going on, because not, you know, we're human and we're fallible. That's everybody. Nobody's exempt from that. But I think when they see that equity isn't a bad thing, it actually would boost the economy. It would change things. Part of our fight as Black people is each other. We don't So yeah, I just saying that Black people really need to we need to get it together as well. It's not just non-people of color. We've been pitted against each other. There's this competition between us. And again, it was designed that way, but we haven't had the opportunity to really come to grips because we're so busy surviving. You're just trying to stay alive in this country, right? You're just trying not to piss off some white person so bad that they go crazy on you or blow up the post office or whatever, whatever these people do. I was eating dinner the other night at a restaurant, and a homeless guy came in, white guy, and the manager told him he had to leave. He smelled really bad, and he was like, I'll bring you food, but you have to wait out here. You can't stay in the restaurant." And the guy was so mad, and he's like, "You'll be sorry." I immediately was like, "It's time to go. You'll be sorry" could mean a whole bunch of things to me coming from. I'm out. Period. You're not blowing up this restaurant with me in it. But it's that hyper awareness that we have, right? Like, okay,
Yep.
I need to be aware because my survival could depend on this. And when
Hmm.
you're staying in that survival mode, it's fucking exhausting.
It is.
You're exhausted mentally, you're exhausted physically, you're exhausted. And we don't have the same opportunities that other people have. We do need to start creating those opportunities for ourselves, but again, that takes a collective to do. Black Panthers were so successful that, of course, they took everybody out because they were actually changing. They were making changes. They were feeding Black people and helping Black people. But whenever we have that happen, I think that's why we don't have Black leaders now, is because anytime somebody has gotten too far, they're offed.
Hmm.
Like,
Yep.
we can't have you disrupting the system like this. So you got to go. And we just have kind of lost momentum from those times. I mean, imagine if MLK or Malcolm X or any of the Black Panther parties still existed in the
Oh, the world
manner
would
that
definitely be different.
it would be
The
different.
world would
Yeah.
definitely be different.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's without a doubt. And I mean, it's when Obama got elected as president, the instant first thing that I felt was fear because I instantly thought that someone would assassinate him because he's the first black president. That's
I thought that
the
too. I thought that
and
too.
I mean no one and we do live in a world where people don't want to see us succeed. They don't want us to be able to do that. And then at the same time, and I think that's why the black community ourselves, we're not used to it or we don't support it because we've been trained to believe that it's not possible for it to happen. So then we don't necessarily know how to be there for one another. And I mean, I try to do my part. I when Juneteenth, the first Juneteenth, where it was like during 2020, where it was celebrated. I remember I went out and every black person that I saw at the restaurant that I was in, I bought them a drink. Just bought them a drink and, happy Juneteenth. And then like for little small businesses, black owned businesses that I knew of, I bought something from them. People in my family who was doing something. I even told like my younger siblings, go find a black owned business and I will give you the money to buy something to support that black owned business. I'm all for supporting the black community, and I've always been about that. The unfortunate thing, though, when it pertains to me, and I don't. It's unfortunate, but I don't let it stop me from supporting black people. Is that the black community, as with me being trans, hasn't always supported me, but I don't let that because, like I said, I'm black first. I don't let that stop me from supporting the black community because you're right. We do need to learn how to be there for ourselves, one another, in order to really combat the resistance that we will face from white people when it comes to really getting change and so forth. I had what was it? I was in Napa Valley. I went to a music festival, Blue Note Festival, and it was like a spur of the moment festival in San Francisco that I went to, and it was Nas was there, Mary J. Blige, Ari Lennox, and a bunch of black musicians. But then there was this poet who came out on stage, and Dave Chappelle was there, which sort of didn't really, but Dave Chappelle was there. But again, it was the cause. I like the fact that he was supporting the cause. But then, the poet at the end of what she had finished saying, she was just chanting, "I love black people. I love black people." And the next day, I went and got a tattoo that says "Black Excellence" at its finest.
I love it.
Because I mean, she was just standing on the stage and crying, and then I was just like, that festival, and I hope I hope they do it again. Because you wouldn't think. And then, I mean, they had only black wines. Dwayne Wade had came out on stage, and there was only wines from black wineries, black-owned wines, and everything was just black, all showcasing black.
Sure.
And exactly. And there were people who actually flew to go to this music festival too. And I mean, we need more communities like that. And I'm a big music festival person, so if that happens, with the music festivals, then let's create a music festival. Let's get these more marches going. Let's get more just outreach happening in the communities, in minority communities in general, so that we can help get these communities going. And we have to continuously be proactive doing it. We got to keep the momentum going.
Yeah.
Like, we have to. We can't slow down and then expect white people to keep it up as well. We gotta keep it going. We gotta hold each other accountable.
Absolutely. I think it just starts with education. When people are educated with the truth, then you have an option at that point to make a choice based on the truth. When you're making choices based on a lie, how could you know that you're making bad choices? Because you think that that's your truth. It's unfortunate. But I am, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for other platforms that are able to really take a look and to unpack and have these conversations, because they're just super, super important. Super important.
Heck yeah.
Wrong things, unfortunately.
Yep. It'll change. And the reason why I'm using those words is it'll change, because I gotta believe that it will change. In order for it to really change, you gotta have the hope. Gotta have it.
It starts with us, though. We have to be the change. Be the change you want to see. I feel like if I can plant these seeds, and I can live my truth as a black woman, I think it makes other people comfortable to do the same. And I can't force anybody to do anything, obviously, but I think when people, see that there are spaces like AFBA and, just a lot of things, a lot of history that they don't know, it changes things for them in a way that's like, wait a minute, what else isn't true? What else was I told that isn't actually true? And that kind of begins your allyship journey. But I think also, if you're an ally for black people, you can be an ally for anybody, because that's, again, we're at the bottom of the totem pole. So if you can be an ally for a black person, you should be an ally for LGBTQ plus. You should be an ally for non not other POC or whatever, wherever your hang up is. But I think our society runs on money, and greed is a huge factor in the hate to continue. Because if I think that white people think that if we give black people something, there won't be enough for us, when that's not true at all. Because white people aren't complaining that we're sending $30 million for the Israelis to bomb Palestinians. We're not mad about that. We have no problem with that.
Right.
USA has their hands in 15 different wars right now. You only hear about one or two of them, and that's just who we are. But when we start to do for our own, it would definitely change things. It would definitely change things.
We have to do it. You, me, trickle it down. We're going to do it. we're going to do it. The money,
right.
yeah, exactly. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. The money and the greed part, it's it'll change. It will change. It will change.
It's going to
It
have to.
will change.
It's going to fall at some point. But we are working on curriculum right now so that we can offer programs to workspaces. So I know the whole new thing now is diversity and inclusion, which again I think is just bullshit because it's you're teaching white people from a white teacher in a class about diversity and they don't know anything about what's going on. So how do you teach that, right? Um, Basically offering programs to places of business, corporations, to make it a safe working environment for or a safe establishment for Black people. There are a lot of unsafe spaces for us still in this day and age,
Hmm.
and if we can start to call out some of the bigger corporations that are unsafe for us, that hurts the bottom line, which is the money. And when the money starts to hurt, then people start to pay attention all of a sudden. So that's kind of my thought process behind it is just calling different spaces out that aren't living up to being inclusive and equitable.
Like these major corporations who did all that fake allyship during 20, because they saw
Exactly.
that they needed they act like they did something, and I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure they probably hired like two or three Black people, said that was their number, their quota, hadn't hired more since. Even I remember there was a restaurant that I was working for, and it was a racist situation that I was involved in, and my ex-wife, she had pointed out, "You're going to say that to the only Black man that's working here," and then 2 days later, because I was off for 2 days, show up. They done hired like three Black people, added three Black people because they were. It was pointed out that it was a whole racist situation going down. And again, like that's that fake the fake allyship is what I don't. But don't actually do it.
Yeah.
Actually do it. And so I think that's good. Creating a curriculum that it really will, because I mean, culture is everything. Work culture is everything. And I mean, if you do care about your bottom line, then let, let Black people be a part of that bottom line and actually care about it. Like
Yeah.
actually do it.
It
Don't.
helps your bottom line at the end of the day, and that's the thought process that I try to get allies to. Like, it is helpful, not hurtful. You've been taught that this will hurt you, but it doesn't. It actually does make it more equitable. You have happier employees, you have happier customers, it does affect your bottom line, but in a positive, not a negative. You're not going to lose
Hmm.
customers. We're not, we're still segregated in lots of places, but not to that point. You think about the loving interracial marriage wasn't
It was like 68
legalized
or something
till
like this.
till 68. Like, it's crazy. It's not that long. These things didn't happen hundreds and hundreds of years ago. It's all very
Yep.
current for the most part. So
Less than 60 years ago. That like
yeah,
that and that's it's I mean,
nuts when you
and
think about it.
yeah, and I've been in interracial relationships, and these are things that this is another topic that I'm gonna definitely have, but um, I don't think some people who are in interracial relationships, I don't think they really understand what the person of color is actually going through and what
Yeah,
they have to deal with on a regular basis and what they're expected to do, because they might not understand and we're just expected to keep it all in and deal with it ourselves, because at the same time the person that they're with, they don't know how to help, and that's where education plays a part. Communication plays a part, being able to create safe spaces for that Black person to sit there and say, this is what happened. It's hurting me. This
yeah,
is what hurted me.
very
Instead of having to just sweep it under the covers, sweep it
yeah.
under the doormat. And I mean, that's definitely a topic that I want to dive in with a couple of interracial couples and see how how it works, see
I'm a
what the
product of life,
reality
so
is.
Yeah, I'm a product of one. So I got it from both sides of the family. They just like were at, well, it was an Italian family and a black family, and neither of them liked, my Italian family did not like my dad. I heard the N word a lot from them. And I had a grandmother who taught me that I was born in Hawaii. That's what she used to tell people when they would ask why my skin was tan. And she's like, oh, she's from Hawaii. She lives in Hawaii. And I'm like, huh? Okay. I mean, I was until I was maybe 4 or 5, and someone asked me something, and I was like, "Oh, I was born in Hawaii." And my mom's like, "No, you weren't. You were born at Cedar Sinai." And I was like, "Well, that's what Grandma told me." And it did not. It took me until I was an adult to realize she was ashamed of me. She still loved me, but she was ashamed of me. Um, and so yeah, we could go down the rabbit hole with that one. I always say in loving, if it was a black man who wanted to marry a white woman, it would probably have taken a lot longer for that to be legalized. But
Definitely.
you have a white man, and when he says something, people listen.
Yep. Unfortunately, that has to be the case. If a white man says it, then the change could possibly happen. If it's a white
Yeah,
man,
and that's
if
what
it's a white
that's what
man,
AFPA is all about. Just
okay,
getting
we got it. We
more
have to
people
help
to
them
use
get there.
voice. Yeah,
Yep.
and
It's
I
just
think
it's unfortunate that it has to be that it has to be to that
yeah,
point.
but we got to start somewhere. Someone's got to do the
You're right.
work.
You're right. Yeah, we're gonna do it together. We're gonna
We're
do it
gonna do it.
together.
We got this.
Kelly, I do appreciate it. Thank you very much for
Absolutely.
talking
Thanks for
with me.
having me.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And we probably will get into that interracial relationship if you have time, sometime in the future.
Anytime.
I'm down to talk about that too, because I think that's definitely a topic that needs to be had in a blended world that's being more blended. It's
Yeah.
we can't ignore the elephant in the room.
No, we cannot. We cannot. And a lot of white people think because they have a biracial child that they know the black experience. And I always say, you are not a safe person for your own black child. I hope you recognize that. And that's not to be
Mm-hmm.
mean. That's just facts. Until you
It's
learn to
facts.
be an ally, you can love a black man or a black woman all you want, but it does not give you the knowledge or the experience to know what black people go through. You just know what your
Mm-hmm.
partner goes through. We're not a monolith. And so, yeah. So, but thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Alrighty.
All
Next.
right.
See you
Talk to
next
you later.
time.
All right. Bye bye.
Later.